What is up, Retro Maniacs? My name is Mike. His name is Joe. His name is EP, and we're here to talk about cards. This week, we're going to tell you the top 5 things we wish we would have had when we were collecting in the 90s. Going to start off with number 5, low hanging fruit, smartphones. Joe, what could we have done with a smartphone back in the 90s?
We've talked about this so many times that we would have to take pictures with a Sony Macavia or whatever they were called.
You'd on have a floppy disk.
On a 3.5-inch floppy. You could take like 3 pictures. So if you had a card worth over like $10, you want to get pictures of the quarter, it would take like 2 discs to do it. I mean, no flash, no nothing. I mean, it was terrible. So just for pictures alone, having a camera on your phone that is the best camera you could have ever gotten back then was it would have been earth-changing, earth-shattering.
Earth-changing
and shattering.
It would have
made our
rotated
lives
the different
so much
directions.
easier. Right, we're like Superman, and Superman was that Superman 1, going backwards, baby. But yeah, that by itself would have been a huge boost for us.
Yeah, that alone, like those photos that we got out of the Sony cameras were terrible. Like looking back, they're terrible. But I remember when we were taking them, like that was still the best.
Then they were
that was the best you could
get
on eBay. Like they're awesome photos. But yeah, the other thing about smartphones is like just the availability of information when you're at a card show or just at your house and you have a card and you can just look it up, just do. And you got it, you know?
There's an app for everything. I don't know anything about Pokemon cards, even though I'm one of the biggest Pokemon consigners in Pittsburgh. But there's an app where you can take a picture of the card and it tells you what it is. Like like come on now. Like how would we have done that back in 1999?
Back in our day.
Back in our day. How would we have done that when Pokemon cards were coming out? We had no idea what these things are, you know.
Not at all.
The ease of use.
It's crazy. Yeah, the phone, like the camera on the phone is amazing. Like it truly is. The cameras they put in the phones are truly amazing. Like it's crazy. Like even to the point where I do believe I've seen how like the actual camera market is like decreasing because people have phones that have cameras on them that go everywhere they go. They could do all kinds of stuff, and you know it's just crazy. Like it makes everything so much easier. And that brings us to number 4, because social media, which we can use our phones for, but boy, social media really changed how you hobby, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, like go ahead.
No, go ahead, Joe.
Okay,
it's all you.
So we derived social media a lot on this channel for sure. There is so many bad actors on social media. Twitter can be the bane in people's existence, but there is some good uses for it. Mike, I'll let you talk about stack sales. EP and I do them a little bit, but we pale in comparison to the retro mania that is Mike. But beyond that, the way information is shared, we didn't know about card trimming scandals back in the 90s. We didn't know about, cards, not fake autographs. We didn't know about a lot of these different like major stories that happen. It's seemingly on a daily basis that we see on social media, on Twitter and things like that. That makes it so much easier to point out those bad actors who are trying to ruin the hobby. So social media, as much as I roll my eyes at it a lot of time, it does have its purpose for sure in the hobby, and it helps point out those things that we really wish back in the 90s we knew.
One of the great things I like about social media is, like if somebody posts something saying, hey, like these are out at Target now, they have a photo of some retailer or whatever, or my most popular tweet probably ever, but definitely over the last year, was when I put a piece of duct tape on a card box to keep cards from sliding around, and I got so many people commenting and stuff like that. What social media does is it helps you share those kinds of tips, but then also you see in the lives, like so many people commented, oh my god, I have those cheese boxes, or oh my god, I had those cheese boxes for collecting, and just the community that is built is incredible. And we had an awesome community at the shop. I mean, that was it was great. I mean, the reason why we are probably as big of a collectors as we are is because of that camaraderie we had, just with everybody that came there, not just the three of us. And then, so to have that now available on like a global scale, almost like, you can have tweets with people in like the Netherlands and stuff. It's wild.
Yeah. And I mean, there are big card communities on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. You can, and you can tailor, like on Twitter, I have a pretty good following. Like I've weeded out the people like that I don't want to follow. Like you can kind of curate your own timeline there a little bit and kind of ignore some of the people that might, it might annoy you a little bit, or people that are bad actors, like Joe said. And you can build yourself a nice little community. Like it's fun. And like I've sold thousands of cards to people on Twitter, like 50-cent and dollar cards. Like it's really cool. Like, yeah, I'm not going to say that like the money I get from it I don't enjoy. I do. That's why I do it. But like I enjoy getting people cards that they like. Like I know people might not think that's sincere, but it really is. I've sold cards. Yeah, I've done that for a long time. And to be able to do that again and get the cards into the hands of people I know appreciate what they're getting is fun. And like I'm finding people, we talk to a lot of the dealers, EP, around here about Chipper Jones, especially. Like we've talked about it at the local card shop. We've talked about it with people at the card shows. Like nobody buys Chipper Jones cards here in central Pennsylvania, but I have multiple people who love to buy Chipper Jones cards from me on Twitter. And like, that's really cool. Like you meet up with the people that you would never have been able to meet up with back in the day.
One final point about the bad actors thing, because Sports Card Radio, and it just flashed in my mind, did a video recently about someone, a breaker dipping a card, as the kids call it nowadays. And when they complained to the bad actor, they said basically go to Whatnot, they'll give you a refund.
I saw that.
And this person went to social media, and there was such a backlash about what had happened. They found the card. So yeah, I mean, as much as I want to complain about how annoying social media can be, I think there's three people here telling you there are a lot of good reasons that we wish we had it 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah, definitely. Imagine the cards I could have got rid of back then. All right, number 3, specialized card supplies. Like a lot of people would never understand today that back in the 90s, you might pull something out like a thick card, even something that simple.
You were screwed.
You couldn't put it in a top load and a soft sleeve, like trying to shove that down in there. Yeah, it didn't work. They didn't
here's a snap tight. Here's a 300 card snap tight or whatever.
Yeah, they didn't have any of that stuff like available. I did take a lot of the thick cards and put them like in the 10 card like hinged cases, because we had no other way. And now pretty much anything you can pull, you can find a supply to put it in, to keep it safe, to display it in. Like that's really cool.
Yeah, I recorded a video for the channel. It'll come out eventually, but it was cards that I had, original cards that I had sent to be graded back from 1999, 2000, whatever, still in the original team bags. Now, let me explain this to the viewers. When you get cards from PSA or BGS or any of the grading companies, you have special bags you can put them in, slab bags you can put them in, some that are snug, some you can just throw in. And back in the day, you would have to use a team bag and slide it. Only PSAs; those were the only ones it worked for, because BGS and SGC at the time were too thick. Slide it in, and the team bag would go right up to the top of the card, so it was protecting the face of the card, not where the label is. It's crazy to think that team bags were pulling double duty back then to also protect your slabs, because there was nothing like that. There was no cottage industry for literally any card. You pull a 100 count card, 130 or 100 point card, 130 point card, 200 point card. There is a sleeve for it. There's a top loader for it. There's a one touch for it. They have the booklets that have the one touch, the mag one touch that you can display. Everything you can imagine, there is a supply for. God almighty, do I wish we had that back in the 90s.
I mean, it even goes the other way with those the top loaders, like 75, 55, 35, like there's the whole range, like
and one
awesome.
touches. They go all the way down to 30, I think.
It's wild. And the other some of the other stuff is like Joe, you got a slab stands with our logos on them.
Yeah,
I mean that's not something like anybody, not anybody, but anybody who has one of those printers and is good enough to do it, they can print them themselves on printers in their house now.
Yes.
So
and you may not want something with a logo on it. There are so many ways, not just the one little stand that we used to have back then. There are go to Amazon. You don't even need to go to a card store. You can go to Amazon and find just random stands to use. I mean, there's just so much stuff out there. It's crazy.
And I was the person who would take a second team bag and put it over the top of the PSA slab. So
you owned a card shop, man. I didn't have that.
There were benefits. Yeah, I know that. Double the expense, but it was worth it. All right, number 2. This was kind of a broad category, but we decided to put it all together. The prevalence of internet marketplaces and databases for information about cards. I mean, yeah, back in the late 90s, I've been using eBay since 1997. I've sold a lot of cards on there from the start. Back in the days when you used to have to wait for somebody to send you a check or a money order. They sent you a check, you had to wait till it cleared. Crazy. But like now, like you can sell to people all over the place. You can sell all over the place, many different marketplaces. You can find out any information you want. You have ComC, you have Trading Card Database, you have Golden's Marketplace, you have PWCC, you have eBay, like it's just really amazing how many options people have out there to try to sell cards or to just learn about cards.
Yeah, I mean, as an eBay seller, TerraPeak is massive for and it's if you're a seller, it's a free service, and it helps you price the cards accordingly. I wish more people would use it, by the way. And then you have all these marketplaces to move cards that again, I mean, people take for granted PayPal and ways to actually be paid through eBay, credit cards and things like that. We didn't have that. We were literally waiting for checks. And I'll tell you what, if the check got lost in the mail, we're like, oh, well, you can send the card. No, I'm going to wait until that check clears. So if you bought a card on eBay, we're talking about it just from the selling perspective. If you look at it from the buyer perspective, you write a check and you send it out, the seller could be like, oh, I never got it. You'd have to wait till your statement came out 30 days later to see if that check was actually cashed. So as a buyer, you could be waiting a month to get a card. Not an exaggeration. I mean, by the time you mailed the check, by the time the check cleared and all these different things, you were waiting a long time to get your cards.
The availability of information, again, kind of tied in with the cell phones, because I mean the databases you have available with something like ComC, where you can look at a card and you can see, like, again, they have the how many cards are in the print run for a lot of those cards and stuff like that. And I've witnessed it at the card show that we went to on Saturday, Mike, that there was an older gentleman that walked up to one of the dealers and said, hey, I got this, and was just trying to find information. And like we know now that we can probably find it online, but back in the day, like we would walk into Mike's shop and say, do you have any idea what this is? And you might have a good idea, but also if it's depending on how rare it is, like you might not even if it's relatively new and rare, like you might not even know. Like the availability of information in those databases is
TCDB is huge. Trading card database is I build sets for to put on eBay. And being able to find out what certain things are is such a massive advantage compared to how it was.
Easy for you to say. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
All right. Number 1, I've been waiting to get to this. YouTube. If you're watching our video right here, you might know a little bit about YouTube. But yeah, boy, we mentioned it a couple times, but we we had the idea to record the content that was going on in my shop long before the technology was ever available. Boy, do I wish we had YouTube. Like, I would love to look back 20 years, 25 years ago to see the content that we had, just to watch some of the classic moments that we remember from the shop.
We would have all been canceled.
Could you imagine the live streams? Yeah, could you imagine the live streams?
The live streams, it would have been fantastic. We really wish that this medium would have existed back then, because we would have used it and used it heavily. We definitely would have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and beyond just using it as something for us to do, using it as a resource is, you know, we talked about this before we started recording, EP and I, that like there are ways to use YouTube as a resource. There are people out there, you can find out how to do anything really card related.
Absolutely.
How do you send cards to be graded? I didn't know how to grade comic books. I went to YouTube and I found someone to help.
You need to know how to use eBay standard envelope. We have a video.
There's a great video. It is. It's our #1 viewed video, and it's evergreen. I mean, it's one of those videos. It's just so good to go out and find that information you need in a 2, 3, 4 minute video, unless it's us and it's about 90 minutes. But it's really good to get that information out there, and a lot of good background noise videos, right? I mean, I love sorting cards and watching Elico 3 do a grading card reveal, or Very Gary going through comic books. I mean, there's just so much stuff out there that can keep you entertained, but also inform you at the same time, which I think is really important.
YouTube is social media, and there's like all these things are kind of connected, especially to YouTube, because you can go on YouTube and you can watch somebody talk about Pokemon card prices and why they're going to go up and why they're going to go down. And you can, if you're trying to find information about a card or a set you don't understand, you can probably search it and find that information on YouTube. It's a wealth of information available, and then also the personalities, and again, it's social media, so there's interaction with a lot of people, and I mean, I'm glad that we're a part of it, and
just be careful though. Viewers do need to be careful, and a couple of folks that I follow on YouTube say this quite a bit, and I wish more people did. Don't take my word for it. There are 1,000 different opinions out there. Go and watch some videos, educate yourself. Don't just take my word for it, especially if someone tells you they're an investor and they're telling you how you should spend your money. Don't take their word for it. Be smart about it. Use it as the tool that it's meant to be, but don't use it as the end all be all. Make your own decisions.
That's a good point to end it on. Let us know what you think. Is there anything we left out of the list? Let us know in the comments. Other than that, we'll be back next week. Take care, guys.
See you, boys.
See ya.